Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to take a look at the astrological energies of February 25th until March 3rd. As this week we have Mercury stationing retrograde in Pisces, Mars entering Pisces, plus the second eclipse of Virgo Lunar Eclipse happening on Wednesday, March 3rd. We'll be looking at all of that and more in today's show, but I wanted to start with a very fascinating development that's been happening on the sun. Yes, our giant glowing ball of light out there in the solar system has had a very rare development. For the first time in over 1,300 days, the sun has no sunspots. It means there is no active regions on the solar surface that are intense or bursting with energies that we've been tracking. For example, we've been watching the giant sunspots, CMEs, and solar flares that have been coming off of the sun very intensely for a number of years. But since February 22nd, we had our first spotless days since June 2022. So what does this mean when the sun is spotless? Well, it signifies that the sun is slowing down in its activity during this solar maximum cycle. However, what's interesting is that the solar maximum cycle is meant to last to 2030, and then it moves into a solar minimum cycle. And so when we have these number of days where the sun is spotless, it could signify that now the activity on the sun is waning, it's depleting or diminishing in its intensity. It doesn't mean we won't have any more activity on the sun, because of course we will. In fact, that's anticipated to start back up here within a day or two. But this is a very rare development where the sun is calmer, and I find it fascinating how unexpected this development is. And as I look at it, it looks like a highly empowered solar plexus that is alive, clear, pure, and strong. And so that is certainly one way to interpret this energy, is to allow a spotless sun to infuse your own sense of strength and self-identity. Now let's get into what is unfolding over this next week as we close out February and move into March. And the end of the month brings us Mercury stationing retrograde at 22 degrees of Pisces. This will be occurring for you on either February 25th or 26th, depending on your location. It is exact February 26th at 1:47 a.m. That's Eastern time. So you would identify where you have 22 degrees of Pisces in your chart, as this is where Mercury comes to that standstill and amplifies an intuitive message, an emotion, feeling, inspiration, or receptive understanding that you are perhaps trusting, sitting with, and feeling called to process. Mercury stationing retrograde is similar to putting the brakes on your vehicle as you change gears and move into reverse. And as you do so, you often have to come to a complete stop. And it's at that stop that there is an intentional pause, that when you tap into it, there's something to hear. There's something that grabs your energy or grabs your attention that you'll be continuing to process and work through during the retrograde journey, which lasts until March 20th as Mercury moves back to 8 degrees of Pisces. So in your chart, 22 to 8 degrees of Pisces is where Mercury is traveling to invite you back into more of the spiritual significance of whatever you've been contemplating and moving through. In the sign of Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac wheel, it's the energy of closure, unraveling, karmic completion. It's also where we're meant to go higher to understand the spiritual significance of certain experiences, relationships, and situations that you have been in, especially over the past year. And so this is a retrograde that's asking you to connect more deeply and powerfully with your soul's wisdom and any messages that you're meant to integrate and own. Part of the power of Pisces is that you take responsibility for all areas of your journey, whether they contribute to your healing, your growth, your lessons, your patterns and completions, whatever the case may be. This is a point of looking at, what was I learning? What was I healing? What am I meant to understand now? And really embrace it at an energetic spiritual level. Now, Mercury doesn't do well in Pisces. In fact, Mercury in Pisces can lose the details, forget the essentials, isn't able to find the exact right word to say. Mercury is in the ethers in Pisces, and linear language is often not a strength, but intuitive language is, meaning you could have downloads around what you're meant to know or understand, around what you need to say. This could be a situation where you lose your words, you're not sure how to explain something, and then if you go higher into that energy of the crown chakra, you realize you get that download of what exactly matters and what you need to express. So this is a transit that's going to be taking us out of our analytical capabilities and ask us to trust what we're sensing and feeling that we need to say. Now, this aligns during Pisces season, where we also have Venus and the Sun in Pisces. That's because the Sun, Venus, and Mercury always travel very close to each other. They only get so far away from each other. So they're often always in the same astrology sign, especially during a Mercury retrograde. So it brings a heightened focus to Pisces energies in your chart right now, and to acknowledge and emotionally close out what you're no longer needing to take into the next cycle. And that's very important right now, especially since we're still coming off of that exact conjunction between Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries, which signaled the new era is starting now. It is coming in powerfully and strongly, and perhaps you've been feeling that over the past week, especially in eclipse season energies. Also important to note that the planets in Pisces are ruled by Neptune. And Neptune is now in Aries, which is going to remove the delusions, spells, glamour, falsehoods, and idealizations that we've been experiencing since 2011. So I feel that this particular Mercury retrograde is going to bring us into a deeper state of internal questioning and exploration that could highlight what you are closing out at a much bigger level than you initially realized. And the reason why this particular Pisces season and this Mercury retrograde is so important is because it's time to further clear out any of the stories you've been carrying around experiences that you've had since 2011. It is that big because Neptune in Aries is signaling the new day is here. We are awakening into the next cycle, and the ascension journey continues on. And what kind of baggage or debris are you still mentally carrying that this Mercury retrograde in Pisces is asking you to dissolve, close out, and be complete with? And because this Mercury is going to be conjunct Venus at 22 degrees of Pisces on February 28th, it will also bring in any of those Venus qualities that you are reconsidering, reprioritizing, reevaluating, and releasing. This also makes the Mercury retrograde experience more personal. Since we're dealing with the personal planets of Mercury and Venus, as well as the Sun, it means that there's things that maybe you need more time to move through and feel into. There's a privacy with the Pisces energy where you could have the desire to retreat, disappear, meditate, and simply drift off into your own world to honor what you are feeling or carrying. These personal energies means that we're more aware of who we no longer are, of what we're no longer drawn to, of how our own internal landscape has been shifting and changing. And I feel that you could have some breakthroughs here around what you're willingly letting go of and moving away from because it no longer resonates with you at a core level. So this is where, at a more practical level, people are going to change their mind. They originally said yes, and then they're going to say no. Or they're going to perhaps not get back to you or need more time to make a choice or figure something out. This is disappearing energy, disappearing into the abyss and the silence of one's own space, And I feel that people are in their own internal process here that you're not meant to take personally or overly interpret. There's meant to be an honoring that when you extend grace to people, grace to move through whatever they are feeling and sensing, that's a beautiful gift you give to them and their energy. And be sure to give that to yourself. If you need more time to yourself during this particular Pisces season, I would say that's right on time with these energetics, because this is also a time to honor your own journey, honor your own growth and the wisdom you've been obtaining through lived experiences. Interestingly, there are no outer planets in Pisces anymore. We know that both Neptune and Saturn have moved on. And so here comes Mercury traveling across this territory that held a lot of significance for us over the past few years. Maybe you're even having some PTSD. Maybe there's some things coming up now that you just didn't have time to move through or feel into when it was happening. That's very human, especially if you were to look at things through the lens of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. If you were in something that was emotionally intense or big for you at a personal emotional level, maybe you're processing through it at a whole new level during this Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So there is a cleaning up here of the energies, but it's happening at that emotional, intuitive space within you so that you can move on and be set free. And the support you'll find is through the higher Pisces realms of seeing the bigger picture of what was this about? What was I learning? Where was there soul growth potential here? Where was my karma? Where was my lessons? Where is my spiritual growth as a result of those exact experiences? There could be some crescendo moments here during this particular Mercury retrograde in Pisces. I believe that will come as Mercury stations direct on March 20th, conjunct the North Node in Pisces at 8 degrees. So Mercury is traveling back to that North Node to pick up more information, details, and messages that he missed before and didn't fully integrate. So that is a very favorable development in terms of how this particular Mercury retrograde is going to unfold. You might also welcome the softness, stillness, and peace that Pisces energies can connect with and bring in. And that might also be a beautiful driving intention during this Pisces season. Now, on that note, how has the first week of the fire horse treated you? Did it feel like maybe you got stampeded over instead of running with the horse or riding on the horse? It was a very intense incoming energy because it also coincided with a solar eclipse, which does not happen every year. So we are in eclipse season, which makes the energies much more dynamic and fast moving, more unexpected, and also quite powerful. There are areas of your life that are meant to be eclipsed out of your experience now. That is part of a solar eclipse, is that it signifies very clear-cut endings and closures so that the new energy can rush in and move you forward. That also brings about a lot of tumultuous developments, shocks and surprises, especially since that eclipse was in Aquarius. And those themes are going to continue this week, especially on February 27th, where Mars in Aquarius is squaring Uranus in Taurus at 27 degrees. And then Mars is going to move forward and be conjunct the exact solar eclipse point on March 1st. So February 27th through March 1st, we have this Mars in Aquarius being highly activated by more intense, shocking developments and changes. Mars is a trigger, especially with these aspects. So there will be more aggressive energies that will be expressed. And because Uranus is at 27 degrees of Taurus, still conjunct Algol, that is the energy of downfalls, beheadings, sudden misfortunes, such as losing power, and abrupt endings. Mars in Aquarius triggers it through collective means, meaning there are systems, collective energies, and anything from the masses that are involved in these changing dynamics. Mars in Aquarius will also bring in advanced technologies, mass communication systems and mass transport systems such as airlines, subways, trains, databases, cloud storage, the energy grid. All of those systems and more are subject to very distinct disruptions, potentially historical disruptions over this next week. So with this energy coupled with Mercury retrograde in Pisces, which is where important things disappear, it's really important to be saving anything you're working on, to have those backup copies or analog versions in case there is a system outage or failure of any kind. It's important to have a plan B and a plan C in case what you are doing fails or doesn't go according to plan. The Pisces energy reminds us to stay flexible and open so we can flow with the changes as they happen. Certainly easier said than done, because the Pisces energy can also bring in disappointment and discouragement. So whatever unfolds over this next week, know that it's just 1 week and that the energies are just not supporting whatever it is you're trying to accomplish or create. Because these energies are very disjointed, it could feel like you're up against something, like you're meeting frustrations at every turn, in which case the Mercury retrograde in Pisces, as well as Venus and the Sun in Pisces, are reminding you to take deep breaths, slow down, relax into the present moment, and give yourself a break. Don't force something if the energy isn't there for it, because there could be a very divine pause that's being gifted to you at this time. And often we don't know why. We don't understand it. We're not sure what's the delay, what's going on, what do I need to change or correct? And you can't see it in these energies. And so if that's the case, this would be a good week to simply lean back, exhale, and say, okay, I'm going to come back to this tomorrow. I'm going to revisit this whenever the energy feels stronger and clearer, knowing that I don't need to waste my energy trying to force the river or trying to make something happen. Getting back to this Mars in Aquarius squaring Uranus in Taurus at 27 degrees, which is conjunct Algol, this could be a very important time to do shadow work, to look at what has been operating within your unconscious and how you can now willingly work with it in a new way, how it can be evolved and changed, how you can see something in yourself that you're realizing, I don't like this about myself, or I don't want this as part of my self-concept or in my energy field. So this can be a time when you see something more clearly that really no longer works for you. And there can be an energetic push, especially from the ego, that says no more. I don't want this to be a part of my lived experiences anymore. So there is an intense Mars until March 2nd. And that's when Mars enters Pisces. And here we have a significant change in how you assert yourself and move ahead, in how you show up and take charge in terms of your physical body's energy as well, because Mars is about the physical body. So Mars enters Pisces and will be in Pisces until April 9th. March 2nd to April 9th, Mars is now in a releasing, surrendering, and trusting phase of his journey. And what he is releasing is the past 2 years. It takes Mars 2 years to move through all 12 signs of the zodiac. But I feel this is an even bigger Mars in Pisces releasing cycle, because he's also releasing all the energetics from that intense Mars retrograde, where he had 3 oppositions to Pluto back in 2024 and 2025. So there could be some pretty big exhales here, as well as some unexpected emotional processing and release opportunities around what you've been holding for the past 2 years. And this would be unconsciously holding it in your body, in your muscles, especially at a cellular level, because I'm seeing this intuitively as a tightness that developed out of survival, strength, and power that now you're being guided to release. But it's deep within the muscle, like those hard to reach muscles in the body that you can only reach them so far in terms of with a massage or physical techniques. It's like you only can do so much, and then it's up to the muscle to surrender. It's when the muscle feels, okay, I can relax this, which might be challenging to the muscle memory if that part of yourself has been tense for a very long time. And this is just what I'm seeing intuitively and energetically. Of course, I'm not a physical expert on how these things work, but I'm just seeing like the deepest parts of ourselves that had to be in a certain state over the past 2 years is now feeling like it's okay to release and let go. And by doing so, you might be surprised at what comes up and moves through you. It could be quite emotional and it could be quite exhausted. This Pisces season, you might realize how absolutely worn out you are if you've been in that bracing state and holding a lot of tension. Now is the time to focus on surrendering those energies and self-care, especially at a physical level. And it all reinforces the Pisces themes that the Sun, Venus, and Mercury retrograde are highlighting as well. One of the messages I'm receiving right now that's really important is that it's okay to do nothing and not feel guilty about it. It's okay to clear your calendar and have a day off, if not 5 days off. It's okay to give yourself downtime that is unscheduled and uncommitted. And we're going to need that in Pisces season this year because we are actually processing and unraveling more layers of energy than first meets the eye. And remember, all these planets in Pisces are ruled by that Neptune in Aries, still conjunct Saturn. So there's a part of yourself that knows, I need to move through this and take care of this to set myself free. The new dream, the next adventure is here. What am I holding and carrying that I no longer need to take forward? And so this could be more of the unpacking and removal of energies you didn't realize were still in your field, meaning your personal energy field, unless you have a baseball field or a football field that you need to clear out too. But at a personal level, when the release happens, there can be more that comes up that shows you the next layer of what you're clearing out and moving through. That's why I'm feeling the PTSD energy that could be quite unexpected. But I'm feeling too like this is where we're also very compassionate, loving, and kind to ourselves around whatever is arising, whatever you're feeling. And it also coincides with maybe needing more time and space to yourself to honor what's coming up for you and to move through it honestly. And it's eclipse season, so we're feeling those jolts of change and evolution, especially as we approach the March 3rd Virgo Lunar Eclipse happening at 13 degrees of Virgo in your chart. I have released a video on YouTube going through this chart more specifically, giving you more insights into the story that is arising and some of the themes that are coming up. It's a very interesting eclipse because you have the moon on one side of the chart at 13 degrees of Virgo, which is aware of your commitments, responsibilities, daily tasks, and what you need to take care of that you can't let slide. And on the other side of the chart are these 4 planets in Pisces: Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury retrograde, plus the North Node in Pisces, and then also Saturn and Neptune in the very early degrees of Aries. The Virgo lunar eclipse is bringing our attention to what is ready to be reorganized, upgraded, and improved so that you can move on to the new starts that are coming through this year. The moon in Virgo is conjunct the South Node in Virgo, meaning there's more to get rid of and clean out. And this would relate to your everyday physical environments. And with Virgo, you focus on the small, manageable tasks. So instead of being overwhelmed by everything in the house that needs to be organized and cleaned, rather you focus on one particular area in one room. So you go into the office and you focus on the desk, then you focus on the bookshelf, then you focus on the cupboards, then you move to the next room and you focus on one area in that space. And that's how you make progress with Virgo, is the ability to hone in on the specifics and look at what details need to be tended to. And you might find that this energy is actually not supportive of any long-term projects or endeavors, because even though there is a Virgo lunar eclipse here that wants you to take stock and inventory of your physical world, including your body, your health, exercise, eating habits, and sleep habits, all the energies on the other side of the chart are like, I don't want to deal with this. This is too much. I can't do one more thing. I don't have the mental focus, especially that Mercury retrograde in Pisces. I can work for a solid 6 minutes, then I need a 2-hour break. And honestly, that's what the energy pattern is here. So we're meant to be gentle with ourselves around what we really have the stamina for and what we really can take on and complete. This could be a time when you're realizing you have a ton of things that are unfinished. All these things that you've procrastinated on or you forgot about, and they're all coming up right in front of you for attention or resolution. And then that's overwhelming when everything is happening at once and you don't even have more energy for it. So I feel like this Virgo lunar eclipse highlights where we're already at capacity. We're already full up with everything going on. And I think the gift of Virgo is focus on the small incremental duties that you can handle and then let yourself off the hook for everything else. Be gentle with yourself around what you can't finish just yet, even if you had any expectations that you could do so. This energy is not working with the calendar right now. This is not the energy of what you can schedule and stick to. In fact, you might find there are more cancellations or more no-shows. There are more things that don't come through, and there's more that drops out. It's all part of the energetics right now. And the easier we can flow with it and move with it, the more we'll feel relaxed with, okay, it's just how the energy is right now. And there's nothing I can do about it. And that's also part of the strong Pisces, is that we can be overwhelmed by everything we can't control or manage. So don't force it. That's what this astrology says right now. I feel that part of this energy signature is a deepening into soul messages, healing themes, karmic contracts, and closures, and that the Virgo energy might help you pinpoint a particular area of personal growth that you're ready to improve. The Virgo energy wants excellence, which can show up as striving for perfection. The Virgo energy can also carry too much that isn't yours. And it stems from a good place. It comes from that desire to be of help, to offer, to support, to give assistance where needed. But there could be some messages coming up around this time where you're understanding, I don't need to sacrifice myself for this. I don't need to keep putting good energy after bad, or I don't need to keep doing something that isn't paying off. And so you might realize some of your own patterns and habits around over-giving, over-providing, over-sacrificing, and feel that you want to rein it in. Now, anytime you change a pattern, especially if it involves other people, it changes the dynamic in a way that they might not expect, right? They're looking for you to do more or to do what you've always done. They're relying on you to be in a certain role and to maintain that role. But when you change that role, which is right on time, especially with these eclipses, it can create confusion, frustration, annoyance, anger, or anything else in the other person. So this is where it's also important to communicate anything you are changing, especially as it relates to jobs or personal priorities. Just letting people know what you're focusing on now is more important than ever, even during this Mercury retrograde, which means you might have to say it 3 times, take out a billboard, or hire a cloud writer for them to get the message. But this is all a big part of a Virgo lunar eclipse, where when your daily priorities change, when your energy shifts and you no longer are putting your mental focus and physical energy towards something that was previously important and other people relied on you for it, then you'll want to have some clear statements and understandings of what you're choosing and that a change is happening. And as I say this, I'm thinking this is also basic, but you'd be surprised how many people don't communicate or don't express the changes they're going through so that other people can understand them. Next Wednesday, we'll talk more about this Virgo lunar eclipse since it's happening on Wednesday, March 3rd, again at 13 degrees of Virgo in your chart. Now, there's one other transit that I want to mention in today's show, which is the Sun conjunct the North Node in Pisces at 9 degrees. And this actually happens on February 27th. This is something that only happens once a year, and it's bringing your attention to where you have 9 degrees of Pisces in your chart. I would extend it by only a few degrees on either side, so 3 or 4 degrees at most, and that's simply because of how slowly the North Node is moving right now. But if you have planets or points around 9 degrees of Pisces, this is where the Sun is traveling across this North Node, signaling fated developments and new growth potentials that are ready to carry you forward. This is where the Sun conjunct the North Node is highlighting what you're ready for next in the Pisces area of your chart. So this can be something that you're ready to trust more. You're creating, you're feeling and sensing something is happening for you that you can't quite see yet, which is, of course, a strong Pisces energy. There could be a powerful alignment or development of events when the sun is near the North Node. It also relates to divine timing, and anything you've been waiting on or waiting for can come through and show up. So do keep in mind that that energy is strong throughout this week, and that you'll want to be aware of how your energy rises, where you feel excited, motivated, or inspired, where that sun in Pisces is encouraging you to trust what you're feeling and put your energy towards something that lifts you up and lights you up. These would be powerful, intuitive downloads, very strong energy guidance that doesn't make sense, but you just feel, this is what I want to do. This is what I feel drawn to. This can be highly creative and artistic. This is where you might feel ready to try something brand new that has only been a dream or a crazy notion. You might find yourself saying yes to something that surprises you too. So this is one of the more encouraging, positive aspects of this week. The sun conjunct that North Node, highlighting where you've been trusting a process and working with the divine in some capacity. There can be developments here, beautiful opportunities, unexpected invitations, and uplifting forward movement. I feel this as a strong Jupiter energy, actually, because it means that there's something you're aligning with that is now right on time. And with the North Node, it's often fortuitous. So again, you want to identify where you have 9 degrees of Pisces in your chart, as this is where the sun is going to move across that North Node, open up a pathway or energy that can be quite positive and encouraging. So as we close out February and move into March, you could be feeling a real push and purge energy here around what you need to complete and move away from so that you can honor the new starts that will continue to unfold for you in 2026. I would say this is a time period to focus on the long term, to focus on where you want to go this year in terms of what you want to create, experience, and put energy towards. That's going to help you refine and prioritize what is not a part of those new directions. And this is going to be a time period where it will be very evident what is not in alignment and where you don't have energy for something. And that can be one of the beautiful gifts of this particular eclipse season. Oh, and I wanted to mention, because a few of you have mentioned this to me, that with the Aquarius solar eclipse that we just had coming in, some of you turned to the guided meditation I offer called the Aquarian Diamond Light Code Downloads. And it's designed to activate more of your cosmic talents and to help you call in more energies from other frequencies that you're ready to embody now. So I just thought that was so beautiful that you turned to this particular guided meditation to support you at this time. So I wanted to share that with those of you who also have this guided meditation on my platform. It might feel very impactful right now, as well as very supportive of the new energies. And then I'll also put a link below the podcast if any of you want to check it out and listen to this guided meditation. It's a guided visualization. It's actually 62 minutes long because it takes you on a journey into other realms as you connect with more of your light codes. So I'm delighted that so many of you are enjoying it, and I hope that it supports you at this time during these rather wild eclipse season energies. As always, thank you so much for joining me for today's show. I'll be back on Friday with a new episode, and we will continue rolling through the dynamic energies of 2026. Wishing you a beautiful week ahead. Thank you so much for joining me here, and I'll see you back here soon.